Hi, everyone, and welcome to the RWTA Chilled Out series. My name's Marianne. I'm the Executive Officer of the Refrigerated Warehouse and Transport Association. This June has been Men's Health Awareness Month, and I have a special guest that I wanted to talk to you and introduce you to today, the CEO of Healthy Heads and Trucks and Sheds, Naomi Frauenfelder, to speak with us. Thank you for joining me, Naomi.
Thank you for having me, Marianne. It's lovely to see you.
And you also. Naomi, June's been dedicated to breaking the stigma around emotional struggles, encouraging open conversations, and addressing the disproportionately high rates of depression and suicide, especially among men. The cold chain is made up predominantly of men, so I think this is really important to talk about. The work that you and your team do is very important, but you do this every single day, which I think is it's better than having a month. It's talk about it all the time. In your opinion, what has changed, if anything, over the last couple of years about the way that you feel men can handle communications and these situations better?
I think we've seen some improvements in the last couple of years. And even more broadly, since COVID, it really brought talking about mental health and wellbeing into the public sphere. So I think there's a lot of stigma in our industry. It's male-dominated, aging workforce. So men are less likely to talk about their feelings than women are. But I think we're seeing some improvements. But I think there's still a way to go in making it okay not to be okay, and sort of being ready to have these conversations any day of the year.
Mm. It's interesting that you say that, Naomi. We touched on it a little earlier when, before we started recording, which was I did approach a few men and said, would you do a video with me? And the answer was no. I understand that some people don't like being on camera and all that kind of thing. But you mentioned that, women talk about it more often and more openly. How do we get the men in our lives, whether it be, our husbands, our sons, our brothers, but, we're talking about work here. How do we do it better? How do we open that conversation? So whether it's a man or a woman, how do we start to encourage this, in your opinion?
I think it's creating opportunities for men to have those conversations. And I always hear when I speak to mental health experts that it's that sort of doing an activity together for men, like going for a walk and being side by side, as opposed to facing each other, feels less confrontational. So,
Yes.
you can if you've got a mate that you're a bit worried about, or if you want to have a talk yourself, if you want to go for a walk, playing golf, doing something where you're doing something as well. So I think it can feel less intimidating. And something we do a lot of at Healthy Heads is try to get men to speak about a challenge that they might have been through, so that other men could look at, a truck driver or someone working in a warehouse or a DC or a mechanic and say, oh, he spoke about it, like maybe it is okay. So that's really our approach in trying to break down some of that stigma. And we've got some different case studies on our website from people that have been willing to speak up, men in their 50s, 40s, 60s, talking about something that they've been through. So I think it's moving in the right direction, but I just think there's a bit of a way to go.
No, always. Do you think it's a generational thing? You mentioned, you do?
I think it's yes, and I'm seeing we do events with our trucks. So we out at a warehouse or a distribution center or a truck stop. And I remember it was an event even a year or two ago, and I was talking to a young man. So he would have been 20s, maybe 30s. And he was like, oh, what are you guys here for? And I was talking about mental health and what we do at Healthy Heads. And he's like, I journal every day. It's like the biggest game changer. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So yes, I think there are generations coming through that and they've learned it at school. Like it's different now in how you educate children around mindfulness, mental health, recognizing, you need to speak to someone, regulating your nervous system. It's all educated now where it just wasn't when I was at school. So yes,
Mm.
I think it definitely is generational as well, and we'll see more of an openness and willingness to talk about it in younger generations that come into our workforce.
No, that's a really good point as well. Um, do you have any advice for fellas out there who, because what I kind of feel is men particularly let things get on top of them. They don't sort of deal with it, or, I think generally women will go for a walk with a friend, go for a cup of tea, pick up the phone, have what we would call a spray. Um, not sure if men do that. How best would you recommend that men start to work toward get to it as soon as you can?
Yeah, and there's something we often talk about healthy heads. It's called the mental health continuum. So if you can picture, it's just sort of a scale of green to red, and green being thriving and red being mentally unwell. But the point is, people aren't mentally healthy or mentally unwell and sort of fit in a neat box all of their lives. We all slide up and down it all the time. Could be work, could be personal reasons, could be anything. So I guess it's recognizing the sooner you reach out and get help and start moving back into the green, the better, because what it's much harder once you've hit the red. There's further back to go on that continuum. So it's really just, you know, there's lots of different support services out there too. So just to make everyone aware, there's an organisation called TX, or This Is a Conversation Starter. They provide free confidential counselling for truckies, tradies, and blue collar. No GP referral. So there's a phone number, you call or text, you get an appointment within 24 hours, and you get 8 free sessions with the same counsellor
Wow.
without having to get a referral. So just to let, and it can be via text too, because some people are intimidated to talk on the phone. So I think I would just say it is normal to go through periods of challenge. There are people out there that can help you. Some of them are no cost, like TX, or, you know, similarly, if you recognize a mate, something's different. There's, you know, maybe they're withdrawing. Normally they might have lunch with you and they stop. Their appearance has changed, that you can also check in with them, and
Mm.
you don't have to become a counsellor. So it's really about asking, are you okay? Provide really great resources on how you have the conversation. And it's ALEC, ask, listen, encourage action, and check back in. And there's lots of these resources on our website too. So it's really just, and I think it's a bit scary and uncomfortable, but the more you do it and just check in with someone, you know, oh, you seem a bit different. Is everything okay? And they're gonna, everything's fine. But then they'll know that you've checked on them. And so at a later date, they might come back to you. So there's just, I think it's just getting used to having that conversation.
Yeah, that's a great. I love the way that you phrase that as well. And one of the things that I try and encourage is, you've got a bucket of water, and the water is the overflow. So that's the overwhelm. So sometimes the bucket's this full, sometimes it's overflowing. Don't let it overflow. Start to empty the bucket by, exercise, good sleep, good,
Nutrition. Yeah.
yeah, all of those good things as well. So
Mm.
thank you for taking the time today to speak with me. I think
My pleasure.
you've given us at least half a dozen really good pointers. And thank you for looking after men's health 12 months every year.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.